This is the Kyle Shanahan stat that Josh Dubow of the AP put out on Twitter. 124 coaches have coached 40-plus regular season games decided by 7 points or fewer. Kyle Shanahan's 378 win percentage, those games ranks 119th. A lot of people are doing what you're doing, Grant. They're making the face. They're rubbing the temples. They don't
378, 119 out of 124. That's just rough.
So
it's hard to say you're a great coach when you have those stats.
I went back and looked, and basically what it comes down to is when Kyle Shanahan wins, he wins by double digits. And when he loses, most of the time he loses a one-score game. Sometimes they get beat by more than that, but that's really what it comes down to. In 2017, they were 2-5 in those games, 3-5 in 2018, 4-3, 1-3, 3-5, 2-1, 1-3, 0-3 this year. So not super encouraging. Should have made a graphic about that. Sorry. Weird thing though, in the playoffs, Kyle's 5-2 in games decided by one score or less, which I guess if you had to pick, you would choose that. But yeah, it's just a weird Kyle Shanahan stat.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was 0-1 and he's 0-1 in the Super Bowl in games decided by 0-2, right? Because if you're going back to the Patriots days or the Falcons days.
Oh, that one. Okay. Well,
yeah. But I want to look real quick at his dad. So his dad won the Super Bowl. Wow, he beat the Packers by 7 the first year, and then the next year he beat the Falcons by about 15. And when he was the offensive coordinator with the 49ers, he beat the Chargers by 1 million. I think there's got to be something about this Shanahan system. It's really good at, piling on the points and yards early in the game with kind of a neutral game script. You can run, you can pass, no team's way up, no team's way behind. And if they get that double-digit lead, a lot of the times, well, they've blown it. But if they can just blow you out, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you can just hang in there and you find yourself down 7, like the Seahawks were down 7 against the 9. They were down 6. It was 23-17. And that's when DK Metcalf threw the pick to Renardo Green. That was a game. And if you look at that one play, DK Metcalf freelances mid-route and goes deep. So if Geno had seen it DK's way and thrown it deep, that's a touchdown. If DK had seen it Geno's way and just continued his route, that's a big play. But instead, this freaking awful team blows it and the Niners win. But it's that close with a bad team every week. If you're a bad team, how do you beat the Niners? Just freaking don't beat yourself and hang around, because they'll end up beating themselves down the stretch a lot of the time.
I don't know. And by the way, Needs says the Chiefs don't have a Devondre Campbell. Few teams do. Let me just say that. Unfortunately for the 49ers, they do.
God forbid Adrian Amos has to play. Sorry, Adrian.
Yeah, he just signed to the practice squad yesterday. Yeah. I don't know if it's the system as much as it's the man. And what I think about Kyle, and especially this year, is his game management is going to come even more into focus this year, because in years past, they were good enough to just beat the hell out of teams. He didn't have to manage the game perfectly because they were so good and so much more talented than everybody else. This year, they're not. And so those decisions and how he manages the clock, how he manages timeouts, how he manages just fourth down decisions, all that stuff's going to be even more important this year. And so far, Kyle has turtled up in those instances. He favors the conservative play. Even when it makes it harder for his team to win, he does. Now, in 2024, he seems to be a little more willing to go for it on fourth down than in years past. So maybe he recognizes that. I don't know. But I think that really is what it has to do with more than anything, is his management of the game in tight games.
I would agree. And it seems, again, like some of his critics, me included, have said, hey, man, like, he's a good coach, but at heart, he's more of an offensive coordinator than a head coach, because with a lead in the second half, he's thinking more about what play can I call that will get the most yards, as opposed to how do I work the clock. And I think those are two different things. Sometimes they go together, but a lot of times they don't. Sometimes your effort to bleed the clock in the second half will come at the expense of your yards per play, and it'll hurt your offensive ranking, but you'll win games. And we used to watch Jim Harbaugh do that all the time, just snuff out a team when he was up 10 with maybe 19 points. And like, he wasn't trying to get to 30. Didn't matter. He was just going to win the game, and it felt like an inevitability. And I think hell of an offensive coordinator. But to be considered a great coach, you should be money in these situations. You should have a winning record in close games. It's not like he's working with a bad team. In 27 and 2018, he was. And he was like in these close games with Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard, and that was impressive. But this year, he's 0-3 in games decided by 7 points or fewer. There's no excuse. Last year, he was 2-4, including the playoffs. No excuse.
No, last year, including the playoffs, he was 3-4.
3-4. Excuse me, 3-4. Okay.
Yeah, they were 2-1 in the playoffs.
Still,
2 out of their 3 playoff wins were 7 points or less.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if I agree with your reasoning as to why, because Kyle has talked about how when he was an offensive coordinator, he was points, yards, whatever. That's how he called plays, because he was like, I'm the offensive coordinator. That's my job. He's talked about when you become a head coach, you have to temper that.
And complimentary football, right? He talks about that. Yes.
I think it's led to some of his conservative decisions. Like, dude, trust your first instinct. Keep your foot on the gas. Like, perfect example. Let's say the Niners are up 7 points, right? And it's like they're driving at the end of the third quarter. It's early fourth quarter, and it's like 4th and 2 from the Niners, like 40-yard line. Mm-hmm. Or 35-yard line, let's say.
Punt.
Like, that should be a go for it situation. It should not be a bring a specialist onto the field situation, particularly if that specialist is Anders Carlson, by the way, who they signed to the practice squad, who stinks, who missed 10 kicks as a rookie and then 2 more in the playoffs.
Can't get the ball into the end zone on kickoffs, which is what the Niners want.
Right.
Rob, you could get the ball into the end zone on kickoffs.
Well, I could certainly do it more than, 45% of the time or 46% of the time, which is what Carlson does it. So to me, he's got, especially this week against Mahomes, you have to keep your foot on the gas. If you get a situation like the Niners had where they score a touchdown and then the other team fumbles on the kickoff, a field goal there does you no good. You have to score a touchdown. The field goal does nothing for you, Kyle Shanahan. And until he gets that, they won't win these close games.
I agree with you 100%. And I love that you brought this up, because to me, Kyle Shanahan, the reason he's so interesting as a person is because he's like a walking contradiction. On the one hand, with this lead late in games, he's conservative. He's punting from the other team's side of the field or kicking field goals he shouldn't be kicking on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. But on the other hand, he's overly aggressive because he's calling passes on 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down when he's up 10 in the second half. So like, what are you? Are you too aggressive? Are you too conservative? Or are you just erratic with your decision-making, where other coaches are cool-headed and have a plan? I mean, you could say Mike Tomlin's overrated and he hasn't done this and that. I just feel like I bet his numbers in games decided by 7 points or fewer are pretty good because he's essentially a good coach. And same with John Harbaugh. Like, I don't care about their schemes. Kyle has a much better scheme than those guys, but you give those guys a close game, they're going to win it more often than not. And that's essentially the essence of being a good coach.
Maybe not the day to bring up Mike Tomlin when he's inexplicably benching Justin Fields to bring back Russell Wilson for some
interesting strategy, Mike. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, not sure about that. Mr. J. Fizz says the gas pedal needs to be pressed all the way until the end of the game. Might as well put a brick on the pedal, go up big, and then play the rookies. Well, playing the rookies, like, please more Renardo Green. Please more D winners. Enough Devondre Campbell and Isaac Yiadom. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to see those guys anymore.
Also, like, if you're a dominant running team, a run-first team, as the Shanahans are supposed to be, you should be able to run the ball with the lead in the second half to close out the games. And this is where I question if the Niners truly are a dominant running team, because I think that kind of comes with an offensive line. If the defense knows you're going to run and you're going to run it anyway, you need to be able to have an offensive line that can wear down a defense and push them around. Harbaugh had that. So in the second half of games, it would just be like Mike Iupati, power, Frank Gore, you know it's coming, you're tired, you can't stop it. But with the Niners, it's outside zone, it's stretching them, it's getting them to run left and right. It's not a physical style of running game, and I feel like if defenses load up to stop it, the Niners aren't going to push them back. They're not going to like create these holes. That's why Kyle Shanahan tends to try to trick you, because it's not the same type of domination that a physical offense can do.
I have real concerns about the running game if Jordan Mason can't play. If Jordan Mason can play, he's awesome. But people think the 49ers ran the ball well last week without Jordan Mason in the second half. They did not. I know Guerrera had the big run. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Do you know what they ran for besides that run? They ran for 2.78 yards per carry against a trash Seahawks defense.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that everything's going to be cool with Isaac Guerrero, because I'm sorry, Right now, to my eyes, he looks like just a dude. He doesn't look like anything special whatsoever. If Mason can't play and can't finish the game, I do really worry about the Niners' ground game offensively.
Like, if you give Isaac Guerrero 10 carries, he very well may end up averaging 6 yards a carry. He might break one for 50, 60 yards, but you're going to be in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11 a lot.
And that is exactly what crushed the 49ers in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
You watch that game every week. That's crazy, man.
Yes. Every week. I'm a psychopath.
I
the
love
Niners in the first half, guess what the average distance to go was for the 49ers on third down in that Super Bowl?
8.
Guess. No.
9.
No.
Oh, 10.
No.
Oh.
It was
13.
It was 12.7 yards to go on third down. That means
hard to win that way, man.
If they had spiked the ball on 1st and 2nd down, we would have a shorter yards to go on third down in the first half of that Super Bowl. That's why the offense bogged down. They were constantly behind the sticks. And if you can't run the ball, you're going to be in 2nd and long, 3rd and long. Now, in the second half, it got a little better. They averaged 7.4 yards to go on third down. But that you can't live there, especially against Steve Spagnuolo and especially against this defense.
Well, here's the problem. When you're they break down third down, 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable, 3rd and long. Anything 3rd and 7 is 3rd and long because you can't put 5 receivers into the pattern on 3rd and 7 because the defense can blitz and they can get to the quarterback before any of those receivers can get to the sticks. So in 3rd and 7, you got to have someone staying in the backfield, a running back or a tight end or both. And you got to have Jake Brendel deciphering the blitz and setting the protection. And the Niners suck at that. Where they're good is 3rd and 3. 3rd and 3, the defense can't necessarily blitz because a 3-yard route gets a first down. So they're on the heels a little bit. The Niners can put 5 in the pattern. Christian McCaffrey can go out and run. But 3rd and 8, pick up the blitz, guys.
It's not where you want to live, especially against Spagnuolo, who's going to come up with all sorts of crazy stuff on third down. And what kind of answers does Brock Purdy have? We'll see. I want to get to some super chats from Really Real, who says, I have a feeling the Chiefs might blow us out. Yeah, this is the worst version of them, but they're 5-0, and Andy Reid could put on a masterclass on Sunday.
Haven't blown out anyone yet this year.
That's true. Most of their games have been very, very close games, and nothing against Brock, but I trust 15 in a close game more than any quarterback right now, and it's not even close.
And not just 15, but Andy Reid and Spagnuolo.
Andre says Stats also watches the Titanic every week, hoping it doesn't sink. I just can't. Where did that iceberg come from, man? Damn, it's out of control.
Again? How could no one see this coming?
That's what I say especially when I watch the Super Bowl from 2012. I think they're going to win every time. Gore breaks that run to get him down into the red zone, and I'm like, how do they not freaking win this game? I mean, you were talking about Harbaugh before. Those 4 plays in the Super Bowl were the worst 4 plays they ran all year. The play calling, everything about it was hideously bad.
If I remember correctly, there was one play, it might have been 3rd and goal, where they don't get the play off and they have to call timeout to avoid a delay of game, but they half run the play and it's a quarterback draw for Colin Kaepernick, and it looked like it would have worked.
Yeah, I think it was 2nd down.
Yeah. That was a great call. I love that call. But they actually called, was it 3 fades to Crabtree?
It was like 3 half-field reads to Crabtree.
And then they did it the next year in Seattle. God, what a way. There's something so biblical and so mythological about football. Like, that's how the Harbaugh era didn't become champions. Like, there was this one thing, the fade, the back corner fade. No.
The crazy thing is, and we're getting into weird territory, but screw it. If they had scored that touchdown against the Ravens, does Harbaugh remain in San Francisco? Because remember, he wanted an extension, and Jed York kept saying he wants to be paid like a Super Bowl winning head coach, and he hasn't won the Super Bowl. Well, if he had won the Super Bowl, if that happens, Kyle Shanahan is probably never the coach of the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Even if Harbaugh only ended up sticking around for a few years longer,
how about this? Is John Harbaugh still the coach of the Ravens? No Super Bowl victories. The Joe Flacco era drags on and on and on. I wonder.
Yeah, because don't forget, after Flacco won, he got a new contract, and he was basically a 500 quarterback from that point.
Wow. Yeah.
Who knew?
I love the Joe Flacco. Can we just keep going on tangent after tangent? I love the Joe Flacco redemption story. Like, he won a Super Bowl as a mediocre quarterback, supposedly, got overpaid, couldn't win with his salary, got tossed around like a backup. But it's like, no, he's still a good starting quarterback. He's in the same draft class as Matt Ryan, still playing Matt Ryan, doing God knows what, probably golfing. Like, one of the more underrated quarterbacks in league history. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer, but damn, what a good story.
Crazy good arm, like ridiculously strong arm. He's got to be
like, if you tell me, like, you know what, Eli Manning, great quarterback, 2 Super Bowls, I prefer Joe Flacco, you can make that argument.
I don't love either one of them. I don't want those to be my quarterback options, please.
But, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you could argue they're in the same tier quarterback.
Yeah, except Eli had 2 crazy playoff runs and Flacco had 1. It's really the
How many times did Flacco beat Brady in the playoffs?
They used to give those Patriots teams hell, for sure.
They did.
And they were a couple missed field goals and a Lee Evans drop away from knocking them
That's
off.
right. Oh, Joe Flacco, I love you. What a guy.
All right, so that's Kansas City. One good thing, by the way, about this game, no Bill Vinovich. He was the ref in both Super Bowls who called all those penalties on the Niners and didn't call any holdings on the Chiefs. He is not reffing this game. Thank God that is not happening.
Nice.
Tom Brady.
So the Niners win, that we're going to do a revisionist history that it's Bill Vinovich's fault that they lost the 2 Super Bowls. We're doing that. I can't wait.
I just want to see one holding penalty called against the Chiefs offensive.
They've never been called for one against the Niners. Well, at least in Super Bowls.
In the playoffs, they've never been called for one. Isn't that insane?